Hello and welcome to the Love Foundry Podcast. I'm Sebastian. We have Taylor and Dan with us. What is the subject that we're going to focus on today?
What it takes
What it takes?
for empowering love. Our purpose is at the Love Foundry is empowering people with love, which sounds good, but it's not as simple as it sounds. So what it takes, I think that's where we start. And then we either want it or we don't. And if we do, what does it take? That's the subject I see it.
And
Now,
how do you see it as in what it takes, Dan?
well, love. And this
It takes
this
love to get love.
yeah, it's kind of like that should be fairly obvious, but it isn't because we're trying to do it. We're personalities that are fundamentally void of love because ego is an intelligence fundamentally unconscious of love. So to bring love into it where it doesn't exist and hasn't been built in is a difficult challenge. So we're going to do it anyway because we want love to be part of the power of our expression. So you're going to have the help of love if you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And that creates the whole dynamic that makes this a process. So now we need Taylor, what would you do if you wanted love to be part of this podcast? What action would you take?
Well, first of all, I put it into my awareness. I summons it. I say, I want love. You got to want it.
Well, all right. Well, how does that, because all right. So would you agree with that, Seb?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with it. But I think it's important to know what that means. Like, how does that look when you say you put it into your awareness? What is awareness without love and what is awareness with love, so that people listening could kind of what is it?
Well, then ask Taylor. She's the one who brought it up.
Well, kind of how I get to that place, or how the kind of tool I use to put that in awareness is I don't really see any separation from life and love. So as soon as I decide that I want to feel alive in myself, for me, that's like inviting love into myself and into my awareness. So it's kind of like a cheat, because until you identify that energy of love itself, it's kind of like you need a way in which to bring it in, and there's so much misunderstanding of love. And I don't mean misunderstanding, but people kind of pigeonhole it into this, they regulate it into this emotional thing, which there's a side to it, but it can't be pigeonholed into just that, and so life is big and immense. And when you feel alive, you know it, and I'm someone that was always a thrill seeker generally. I was into, surfing and kiteboarding and rock climbing, and those things make me feel alive. So I could kind of just find that feeling inside of me. And that's kind of how I would start to identify love itself as its own energy.
So are those things, is thrill seeking love? Is that part of the energy of love?
No, I'm just comparing that to how you feel alive in those moments.
Right.
You feel fully alive in that moment because it brings you into the now.
Hold on a minute. You may be wrong about that, Taylor. Seb brought up well, you're not wrong. It's just identifying, because when you first of all, I agree with you. We need to bring love into this presence right now so that that's present with us to make this empowerment subject possible. So so we're going to get to how you invite love in. Saying you're doing that doesn't tell us how you did it. But before we do that, we're going to make this a reasonably short podcast today, because we don't want to go too far with this and have too much information that overloads. So, but Seb brought up an interesting point. Is that thing you're feeling when you're rock climbing, or when you're windsurfing, or riding riding the wave, is that love. And of course, any animating life has love in the animation because it's being animated towards something, by something, with something. There's just a lot going on in everything we do. A tiger fighting for its life is experiencing love. So, and if you look at this, you can go look at some examples of this in our human experience that are going on right now. You can go look at the Iceman, Wim Hof, and he's a controversial character, but a wonderful character in my view. And you see what's up with him. This is a guy that has the world record for sitting in freezing water up to his neck, which, if anyone knows, I'm from Alaska, so I know what cold can do to you. And anyone who can sit in freezing ice water up to his neck for an hour and a half has something going on inside of his body that is not normal, because hypothermia sets in about 4 or 5 minutes for the average person. And for athletic people, it takes a little longer, but nobody's going to be hanging out in the water like he is. Yeah. And that didn't happen in him accidentally. His story is an interesting story, which we'll get into in another podcast, of how he got there. But it is love that got him there. So you can say the ability to repel the cold and find the fire of life inside of you so powerfully that you can overcome something that would otherwise kill you. That's a very powerful thing. Now, we can not call it love, but if you know his story, you find out it goes back to the death of his wife and how that forced him into a crisis of failure, and that what he had to do to get through that crisis brings you into the realization that love is a wider spectrum than we may think. And so that's part of it. And the same thing is true of Haleakala Hugh Len in Hawaii when he did Ho'oponopono. How in the hell did he fix people who are criminally insane by never meeting them? Well, we'll have that subject too, because it's a fantastic subject, and it definitely involves love. Yeah. So sorry, Seb, go.
No, I was just agreeing with you. But
right.
Maybe what Taylor was alluding to was in those experiences where she was having these thrill-seeking experiences, love was there, but not consciously for her. Like maybe what she's talking about. And
well, I was trying to introduce like a way to bring yourself to the moment of kind of now, where, like I said, it was kind of like a cheat for me. Like I look at it as like a way to invite that presence in.
I think that's what motivates people who do these things, and many of them die in the pursuit of it. I don't think thrill seekers. Having been in war, I've had enough thrill seeking. But people who do that, people who jump out of airplanes and climb the north face of the Eider and do flying suits, they're not just thrill seekers. In my estimation, they're looking for love. They're not looking for emotional bullshit. They're not looking for satisfaction of a desire, which, well, they are. If they're looking for love, they're trying to satisfy a desire for it. But they're looking for something that is dynamic, something that is powerful beyond levels, and they can engage with. And that's their way of getting to it, like Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. So, but we're not going to set ourselves on fire here on camera, except maybe Seb, to get it, but we're going to invite it. So that's the point. Let's get to that, because if you open I do meditation, right? We all do. And from doing group meditation and those kind of things that you can invite love into the presence. Yeah. And you see how it just now arrived? Do you see it just arrived? Because the three of us, when I said that, I didn't do it. When I said it, the two of you just invoked it. And then all of a sudden, here it is. It's right here. It's already here. It's always here, but we're drawing it closer to awareness, closer to tangibility. So we want to pull that in right now during this discussion so that it can help us. And this is, to me, this is like first step of understanding how to empower yourself with love, is ask it for help. Love wants to empower everyone with itself, because then we will be animating our expression of reality with it. And if we're doing that, then love-based living becomes an expression of ourselves. So love's in on that conversation. It's happy to do it. And we have evidence of that in various experiences around the world, going back to people like the Christ or the Buddha or others. Those are notables. And we can have discussions about how they did it as well, because these are all simply, in the last analysis, human expressions of how to engage love in daily affairs. Well, at the Love Foundry, we are working on a project, and that project is how to reduce empowering your life with love to a basic, simple, easy to apply formula, but you have to want it. You have to want it. There's no way out of that. And wanting for the human race has been founded on desire, but we haven't applied it what I would consider intelligently up to now. We think of desire as something we want to get. You know, I want that. I want an ice cream cone. Let's go get a yogurt. I want her. I want him.
Right.
I want more of that. So you see, that has a lot to do with us acquiring something, which is basically how ego functions, because it's all about itself. Selfish ego is kind of something we're pretty familiar with. But there's a complete opposite to that, which is, I want to express love. I want to give this power out through me into the world. Now, there's a selfish component to that, because I think it'll make my life better. I think it'll make my children's life better. I think it might make my neighbor's life better, and he's kind of a jerk. So if he sweetens up a little bit, that might be better. But there's also an opposite component to that, which is, wouldn't it be nice if there were less pain and suffering in the world? Yes, it would be nice. And when you invite love into the conversation we're having, you feel that. You feel that love is down for that. There's nothing in the heart that wants less suffering than love. So, and does it have the power to transform suffering? Does it have the power to heal? Does it have the power to make your life better? Does it have a power to bring you the resources you need? Yes, I think it does, personally. Personally, I'm not very good at it, by the way. On some levels, I'm pretty good at it, but some levels, I'm like, no idea. And so
by expressing love, you are offering all of those elements out to the space and people around you.
what elements? You mean wealth, fame, and
No,
satisfaction?
the ones that you
Healing
exactly.
They'll line up for that. I'm telling you that. They'll line right up for that. Which a lot of people offer, by the way. You know, the magic number, Tesla's code, whatever the hell. The internet is full of lies about things that you can get for a little bit of effort, basically by following someone else's formula. But love is a little more elusive than that.
Yeah.
And so now
what those people are talking about and offering is ego empowerment. So, sometimes for the person who's listening, sometimes just for the person who's offering it, right? Would you say that's a correct analogy?
No, I mean, I would, yes, because that's an assessment, but it's a judgment. And that judgment, you have to get past all of the thinking and realize, look, we're actually doing this. We're not having a academic discussion about love. We're actually engaging it so that we can be present with it and see how it looks in our experience and help others to be present with it and get a look at it in their experience. So we have to keep our eye on the ball.
Right.
It's like Joe Montana. If you're going to run out for catch a pass of his, you better keep your eye on the ball because it's going to be coming at 60 miles an hour and it's going to go right past you if you're thinking about it. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to get that. You're right about the ego. It gets engaged because it wants to participate with us. It wants to play the game with us. But you have to get past that if you're going to hit a 95 mile an hour fastball. If you start thinking about that pitcher throwing a ball at you, you'll miss it. They always do. That's how great batters go into batting slumps, and for 40 at bats can't hit a damn thing. And the pitchers know it. You're like a wounded shark bait to them. They see you coming to the plate with uncertainty in your step. That's why they're very calculated guys, a lot of those pitchers, and they know how to, that guy's in a slump. He's not going to have any idea what I'm doing. But then one day that guy just shakes it off and comes to the plate and goes, I don't give a damn. Throw what you want. I don't care. I'm just going to be here and do the best I can. And then all of a sudden he connects to that in him, which is free of emotional, mental judgments and anxieties and fears, and knocks it out of the park again. And then the pitcher goes, he's back. he's back in the zone. So these are all steps towards what I would consider to be a working relationship with love. And I think athletes probably just demonstrate it better than others. Great actors demonstrate it. Performers, musical performers of all types demonstrate it on and off. And that's getting ready to lead, I think, the next revolution in music are those that incorporate love in what they do, like maybe Esperanza Spalding, and those who can find it in them while they do their music, because you can lose yourself in the music with love and have one hell of an experience. So all of this is present around us in humanity, but we're talking about you consciously empowering yourself with it on a daily basis. Now, as you said, Taylor, we have to find it first. We have to invite it to the party and then be tangibly aware of its presence with us. And you guys go in and out, I do too, of it being here with us. So bring it back to where we were, because it showed up. It showed up the moment that we mentioned it and invited it. But keeping that as a constant sense of presence with you is required if you're going to empower yourself with it.
And just to speak to that, so you don't get trapped in trying to keep it just in your mind. There's the sensation that comes and you feel it in your heart. And for some people, it's easier to stay in that sensation rather than try to hold an awareness and consciousness.
No, I agree. If you hold it in mind, you're going to be holding it in ego, and it won't be love. It'll be a reflection of love in your ego, in my view, because ego is, look, you can put spaghetti in a sieve. You want to drain spaghetti into a sieve, but love won't stay. Love's like the water. It goes right through. So what you're left with is something that isn't water. You're not going to catch water in a sieve. You can get spaghetti. So if you're trying to hold love in your mind, you can hold a reflection of it. You can imagine a candle in front of you burning. Well, just try it. Imagine a candle in front of you burning. Now, that's a candle burning in front of you. Now, use that as a talisman for love. Imagine that as an invitation to love. From somewhere in the universe, wherever love lives, let it join you around the candle, with the candle. Candle is how you're seeing love. Because you can use any talisman for love. It doesn't care. You can see a gold energy coming down into your consciousness. You can feel a magnetic touch upon you. You can feel a sensation of good, which is a very sort of intangible word, but you can feel a sense of wanting to do good. However you define your connection to it, you can do it. But you're right, Taylor. If you hold it in mind, you're holding the talisman. You're not holding the love. And it's easy for that to slip away. And now you're just holding a candle burning in your mind. Oh, and the same thing on the physical plane. We can light a candle in front of us and go, okay, we've invited love into the room, and love will show up because you did that. But if you get lazy and stop being conscious of love and just look at the candle and let that say, oh, I'll just leave the candle burning, love will stay here for us. No, it won't. It's a very mercurial thing. It comes, it goes, it is, it isn't, it shows up, it disappears. So what we need to do is stabilize that in our lives. You can't have something empowering you that isn't consistent, stable, and an endless source.
And that quote of DK, if it's not in your awareness, that thing for you does not exist. So, and that's the importance of keeping it constant, and just, you can't let it go.
Yeah, well, that quote, to make the statement so that people can put their mind around it, that's true. If a thing is not in your consciousness, for you, that thing does not exist. Now, you can say, well, I've got an axe stuck in the wood pile out back, and I just remembered that I left it out in the rain. So it's in my consciousness. And before I remembered it, it was out there stuck in the wood. And if I forget about it because Phoenix runs into the room and says something like, I think I broke my arm, then you're like, okay, I forget about the axe out there in the wood pile, but it's still in the wood pile. And that's true. So don't use that as a reason that it's what you just said is not true. It stopped existing for you. It still exists for the wood pile, still exists for somebody out there who's splitting wood. It's just isn't present in your reality. And it's not a metaphor, it's a fact, because your consciousness is only aware of certain things. And for you at this moment, those are real. And if you want love to be one of them, bring it in. Bring it in. And we have been so long in the human race without it as a conscious companion to our journey, an empowering companion, that we don't know how to keep it going with us while we're walking along the road. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, because what? Love is hanging out with you. It's walking with you. So if you're aware of that, then you've got a sense of strength. But if you forget about it because you hear a sound of something out there in the bushes and suddenly fear overwhelms you, where'd the love go? Where'd the love go? So we have to think about these things in a way that makes it possibly usable to us in our conversation about how to empower ourselves with it. Because that's going to be one of the challenges along the way of this particular podcast. There are people who are really ready for love to empower their lives. Thousands and thousands of them. Maybe better than we are ready. And they're going to get it. They're going to get it because they're going to go, oh, hell, I never thought about that. I never thought I could do that. So for them, it'll be
brings
like,
you back
sure.
to the desire. Yeah. It's
It
like
gets
you're
back
going
to
create this thing in your life because you desire it.
Because you freaking want it. Now, there are a lot of subjects for us to cover to make empowering your life with love. So we can't do all of them at this time. And one of them is the difference between desire and aspiration. Desire, look at the Latin root of desire. That helps. Desire. Desire. D is of in Latin, and sire is father, which literally translates in Latin, which came originally out of Sanskrit, of the Father. And of the Father means that's what I want to father in my life. That's what I want to be the creator of in my life. It has nothing to do with sex. It has to do with creative act. The mother is perfectly capable of fathering, and the father is perfectly capable of mothering. So we're just looking at the different aspects. But instead of saying, I want to get that, why do you want to go get something you already have? You don't need to go get it. Seb doesn't need to go get love. He already has it. But bringing it into his consciousness and giving it away to others, that may be something he needs to learn how to do on a constant, steady basis. And the implications of someone being able to do that are astounding. If you start to think about what love actually is in the universe as an aspect of life, it may be all there is to life for all we know, but it's certainly an aspect of life, as is will, as is intelligence. These are aspects of life itself, the thing that makes all things all things. So it's a profound thing if you are empowered by it, if you're growing into a living relationship with it. And when your emotional body, not your feelings, but your emotional body engages in a joyful realization that it can have love, it might get excited and start a continuous flow of it going through you, in which case your life will have very powerful transformative impacts on other people. So you won't have any trouble holding on to love once you get a sense of what it's doing for you, what it's giving you, what it offers your opportunity of living. But there is that in us which conflicts with it, which we also have to discuss. Is that a yipper that you own?
No.
Taylor? Oh, is that your yipper, Seb?
That's a neighborhood here.
Well, it's not mine. I mean, we've all got yippers around us, but anyway, getting in the conversation.
It says yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay. So for the moment, we're holding that as a steady wave, or maybe it's a particle. We'll have to ask the quantum physicists, because that's their problem. They're getting into the love game. And it's causing them to question what they're doing.
It's like light. It's a wave and a particle.
It's a wave. How can you? And material physics don't allow wave and particle simultaneously. And
but
it doesn't
you can't
allow
limit love. Light kind of teaches us that.
And the impact of consciousness on a thing, causing it to shift from one to the other, is really profound. That brings in psychism. And all those scientists that said psychics are all just idiots and liars and whatever are starting to go, wait a minute. If you're having an impact on a wave and making it become a particle, or vice versa, in that split test experiment that they did with Schrodinger's cat, dead or alive, that kind of thing, then you have to ask yourself, what's up here? There is something up there. And that there might be love. But we're going to bring it in. We're going to make it a substantial sense of living in our conversation for others to bring into their lives. Because how this lives in Seb, or how it lives in you, Taylor, or me, if it lives in us at all, is not what's important to other people. It's how it lives in them. And it lives in all of us differently. And so I can't tell you what it is, and I can't tell you how it lives, how it should live in you, or any of that. You have to find it, bring it, recognize it, realize it, take joy in it, amplify it, steady it, become powerful with it, and transform your life into something completely different with it.
And that's all great. But you start with just...
Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do it over a period of time in a workshop approach. This is not a lecture series for you to learn about love. It's a workshop approach. And we're amateurs at it, by the way. But the amateurs come first. If we can get this going, if you can get a fire started, then somebody else will show up who knows a lot more about it than we do and say, okay, let us give you a hand with that. Because we've been doing it for centuries. There are beings around, who figured this out way ahead of us. So we would like some help with it. But you've got to demonstrate that you're interested in that help. Why would somebody come in and start preaching to you about love if you don't really want it or have an interest in it or have any sense of confidence that it would actually do you any good. So I don't care who you are. If you're that wise guy out there living on the mountain, what's the point if no one wants what you've got? Well, there's lots of point. Those people out there that have a more than nodding acquaintance with love, that are wielding it in great, profitable, powerful, positive ways, they just go on doing what they're doing, lovingly, for humanity, for all the beings around them, until someone says, can you give us a hand to join you in doing that? Because maybe the rest of us could make it easier for you. We could take some of the load off you. Well, they're not going to turn that down. If Atlas is holding the world on his shoulders, and nobody even remembers who poor old Atlas was.
The Greek
and
guy.
Someone, a Greek guy, a Greek dude. He was a Greek dude holding the world on his shoulders. Which
they
is
named your first vertebrae after him.
Oh, they named a vertebrae. Oh, that's right. We got the
first
Atlas
one
back
holds
here.
up the dome. Yeah,
holds up the skull, which is so you see the metaphorical contact there, holding up the head and the consciousness and the mind and all of that. So he could probably use a little help, and the rest of us holding up our head and then inviting love in starts holding the whole world with it. And that assumes, of course, that love is real. Some people didn't think it was anything other than an emotion. And they didn't think much of emotions because they thought intellect was far superior. And we like emotion in the gas tank because that gets us going. But that's all it's good for. It's a fuel. It's not a thing. But if you bring love in and replace emotion with it, now wait a minute. Love is alive and has its own agenda. Well, what's the agenda of love? See, if we get down to these questions and answers, the empowerment of love will start to make more sense. And we'll start to realize why we don't want love. We don't want to be interfered with. We got our game going. Look, I'm running the rackets. I'm doing something on the sides. I got a good gig going. Don't fool with me with love. I don't want any interference with it. So we got that part of our lives going for us, but maybe love would make it better for you. So we don't know. It's a tricky business getting this energy engaged in what we do. So what color is it for you, Taylor?
Well, now that you're asking, it's like a deep violet with flecks of gold at this moment. If I look to see,
I see it that way sometimes. Sometimes I see it as gold with flecks of violet.
Yeah,
and purple.
Mostly when I look at it, I see it as gold. Mostly.
Yeah, and when you study esoteric stuff, which doesn't make it real, it's just esoteric, which means it's a little less known to people than other things. They will tell you that the color you see in the spiritual worlds is a reaction between love and the body of a being, a diva or an angelic being, when love comes into it or one of the other life aspects, maybe will.
Now you're getting esoteric on us, Dan.
I'm just telling you what those wise guys think. Then that being turns a certain color in reaction to, in other words, it stimulates.
Like chemically, right?
Yeah,
like
and you were talking earlier, right? You were talking earlier about rainbows and changing colors and how they fold in on themselves and things. So, yeah, we don't know what color an angel is because the color you're seeing is it reacting to something in itself and then releasing color as a response. And then we go, wow, that's a purple diva over there.
Well, it's like light. Light itself. You can't see light until it falls upon an object. It doesn't exist. You can't just see it in the space, right?
Well, you can if it becomes a color.
Yeah, but you can if you see it as a color. That's right.
It has to fall into a subtonic of itself, which is a metaphor for love, because love itself is invisible to us. But if it becomes a sub aspect of itself in your life, then suddenly something else appears. Maybe joy, maybe money, maybe substance, maybe an impact that changes how you bake something. You bake love in, like grandma does. But we have changes that occur in substance as a result of an impact of love, which reveals that love is present. That's an indication it's present.
If that's really important too, by the way, to say, because everyone's had these experiences where it's like you could never imagine things would have happened that way, and you can't explain how things did happen, you know, and it's like there's that feeling that comes out of you, and you know, it's an excitement, it's a livingness, it's love, you know.
Right.
And that's a way to see what we're talking about a little bit, is to look at those experiences that we've all had.
Right. And seeing is a broad term. I can see something by touch, by taste, by smell, by sight, by intuition. So we talk about it as if we're seeing something, but often it's one of the other senses revealing something about the universe around us. And I think every sense in the body, and I think there are 7, not 6, because I think we forget that common sense is actually a sense. It's the cumulative experience of learning what the environment is really about, which gives us common sense. Don't eat the yellow snow. So I think every sense is capable of identifying love. And if you added them all together simultaneously in the presence of love, then you have an outrageous sense of love, of communion with love. And we would like to have these sensations of communion with love because it's real and it's wonderful. But we start with empowering our life with it. We start with where we are. As this saying goes, we walk where our feet are. And that'll bring us into it. Go ahead, Tate.
Is there a sense you think is more common for people to find that feeling of love? Like, is there one sense that people should focus more on, or is it each person is individual and it can show up in different ways and different senses?
Well, we can focus on dogs. That dog's in your neighborhood, isn't it, Seb?
No.
Oh, it's yours. Oh, okay. So does it want in where you are?
No, it's a neighbor. I can close the door if it's because I don't hear it, but if it's loud on the.
Well, if he keeps going on too much, then
he wants to go.
He wants to go. It sounds like he wants to go play with the neighbor.
Probably does. Let's play with love, Dan. Sense him what we're up
to. What's the breed?
I have no idea. I've never seen this dog.
Oh, it's not your dog. Yeah, I know you have one. Okay. All right. Either way, we just don't want to be too much distracted from what we're doing, but dogs love too. And so anyway, let's bring ourselves to the realization this is going to take a while, but we're holding it now. You're holding it now or you're not. And how do you develop in yourself? I'm going to give you a prelude to what we're going to be getting into, because this is not a how-to series. How-to series are not the answer to things, but it's a workshop.
Okay. Beginning with the Industrial Revolution era.
I don't know, somehow Siri's beginning with she wants to get in on the conversation. So that's you got to realize they're all listening. But with love, we don't care. We don't care who's listening. We just love them. And when that hits them, things happen. So love is a power that can pull us out of a lot of paranoia things in the world. So, but my point here, aside from Siri, who's fine, is that we have to figure this thing out down to its beginning. And the beginning is acquiring a sense of what does it take for this to live in us all the time that we're not now doing. Because humanity, 99% is unconscious of love. Not the emotional idea of love. We've all got that. Not the intellectual wish life of love. We've all got that too. But to be actual dynamically conscious of the presence of it in an empowering way, that we're kind of clueless in. Yeah. So that's the step we're taking. But something has to change in each of us in order for that to become easy. Now, I don't know how an acrobat can get from one side to the other without falling off that rope, but they had to learn how. They had to learn something they weren't doing when they were a normal person in order to be able to do it. And it's kind of like that. You have to acquire a sense in you of something that you're not now familiar with. But if you're willing to do it, then suddenly you realize, oh, I can get my arms around this. I can hold this in my presence. So let's start down that path, and then we'll come to what it is. And my point of view, to give you a sense of direction for it, is you're going to have to become aware of who you are in your personality life, in the world, being who you are, doing your daily driver, having your stuff. And you're going to have to learn something about who you are in that subjective world where love lives. That's part of your life too. It's a mythical part in some people's mind, and it's a religious thing in some people's mind, and it's a storybook in other people's mind. But it's real. It's subtle. It's subjective. It's less than hard-edged like a brick, but it's a place and a sense of awareness in a whole part of our identity that we haven't really brought up into activity usually in most people. And this, I think, meditation is a good direction for. I think it's something that gurus talk about. It's something that priests talk about sometimes, and that people connected to that sort of path do. There aren't very much conversation about that in the scientific world, which I think is something they need to learn how to do. I think quantum mechanics will become a lot clearer to people if they realize the problem is not understanding the science, it's changing their point of view. Then it suddenly reveals itself. We have to change for love to become empowering to us. Not love. Love's already doing a lot of changing. But we have free will, and if we don't act on that free will towards revealing love in ourselves, then we don't get it. It won't happen. We're just not doing it. We want somebody else to do it, and God to do it. You want the mother to do it. You want grandma to do it. We have to do it. That's what free will is for, taking you forward into new territory and exploring things we never had before. Now, I guess
the new frontier.
The new frontier. It's the new old frontier. I think it's been there a long time, waiting for humanity.
That's the thing about frontiers. They're always been there.
They're always there. And look, we've been growing up. Look at Animal Man became human a long time ago. And I think this moment we're entering right now of empowering yourself with love is the second major step since that happened. Animals took a major step at some point, somehow, through some encouragement, and humans were born. And they're self-conscious, aware beings. They go, well, I am. I don't know what that is, but I am, damn it.
I get the sensation that, it's all been leading to this.
There's nowhere else for it to lead if love is real.
And that's why we are doing this work. I mean, that's why I am doing this work.
Well, I'm doing it because my life is crap without it. I'm a recovering everything. If you go through enough war and you go through enough stuff, you finally realize I've got to recover from this. And the only recovery is love. I figured that out a long time ago. I had enough PTSD for the universe. So you realize, what's going to fix this? What could possibly fix this? And you can say nothing and blow your brains out, which a lot of people I know have done. Or you can say, well, maybe love could fix this. Then the only way you find out is to go get it, to apply it to yourself. And turns out it's a pretty powerful healing substance. Now, I don't know whether it's love doing the healing or some other being doing the healing with love in it. I don't know how it works. I'm working out how it works, but I'll take it if it gets me up in the morning and gets me going. So let's take that on to the next step and see if we can go somewhere with that.
Yeah.
Seb, how do we get out of this?
Well, we're at 45 minutes, so I think we should wrap this up. I wanted to add, I forgot to mention earlier, that to anyone listening, DK is draw cool. Just for people who didn't know who that was and wanted to look up where that quote came from.
Oh, so you would talk about esoteric, huh? You're reading esoteric books, aren't you?
No, I talk with
Not
people
you.
who do. Oh,
I see. No.
Guilty by association. Huh?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yes. Seb's reputation is that he's not the most voracious reader in the world,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make him stupid. So, Taylor, I was talking to you because you're the one that threw that out with such nonchalance.
I'm sorry about that. Quote people.
Just clue people in what you're talking about.
Thank you, Seb, for bringing that to attention. Yeah, Joel Poole is, he was a writer that kind of, he had other people yielding the pen for him, and he kind of dictated to them. And in this case, it was Alice Bailey is the writer that was the doing the pen work.
Well, he's also reported to have done the same. So what you're talking is an amanuensis. You're talking about a person who telepathically communicates. You're talking about a very big opening into another podcast, which we're happy to do.
I tried to keep it simple. Just the
I
pen
had many years of experience with all of that, so I'm happy to discuss it. But and this particular presence reported to be a spiritual master in the Himalayan sense. There's probably lots of spiritual masters that have nothing to do with the Himalayas or that group of guys or girls or whatever the heck they are doing. But he's reported to be that, and he's reported also to be the person who supported Blavatsky and what she did with the Theosophical Society in the same process that she did with Alice Bailey. And it's a very interesting story. And so, yeah, we'll get to all of that. And then you've got other different directions, which are really fascinating. And all of it is in some way engaged with love, or it has no place in our conversation. We aren't here to talk about stuff that, well, there's nothing that isn't related to love. There's nothing in the universe that isn't related to love. That's the beauty of this particular universe. It's a love-based universe. So it's everywhere and everything and every experience. Now, what we're going to talk about when we talk about empowering ourselves with love is how love has to do with any of those things we bring up. I don't care what Dwal Kul does in his spare time, which he's a Tibetan Lama, I guess, and other things. I don't care what other aspects of it, whether he plays a mean-handed jinn or whatever he does. I'm interested in the love aspect of anything that we touch upon. So that's what we're looking for. And the rest is interesting, but not of great interest to us. And there's a lot of things where love is expressing itself that we might not think are love, because we've got a lot of opinions about all of this stuff. That's fine. We'll talk about that too. Okay, so Seb, anything else?
No, I think we've brought it to a good point where we've got a lot to expand on in the next podcast. But yeah, I think this is a great touch.
Okay, and we need help from each other and from our people out there who are interested in empowering their lives with love, because that's how you bring it forth. We're just offering the idea that we could take blackbirds and maybe some other stuff and we could make a pie. Well, anybody who wants a slice of blackbird pie.
I don't want to eat crow.
You don't want to eat crow. It's a tough dish to get used to, but I've had so much of it, I'm kind of familiar with it. So we need help to do this. And you think, well, I don't know anything about this idea of empowering my life with love. Yeah, that's not the help we need. We need your desire for it. We need your aspiration for that to be a real thing in the world. Because when enough human beings aspire to anything, it's going to manifest. Love will see to it. So we're gathering that kind of focus at the Love Foundry, and we're going to put it out there consistently until it happens. I'm committed to doing it, and I think you are, Taylor. I think Seb's along for the ride. I don't know what he's doing here. What do you think, Seb?
Well, if I'm along for the ride, I think I picked a pretty good place to join for the ride. But no, I'm in for this. I'm in for love.
All right, good.
Yeah, we'll pick up
And
hitchhikers. It's cool.
All right. So, as I said, we're not good at quitting. That's one of the things. That's one of the problems we have with all these podcasts. Is there's nowhere to stop in this until you have got it done. But we can't just go on. So how do we get out of this, Seb?
We say thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Our first day. We'll get better.
Now, do we have a musical exit, or do we just?
I'm going to
throw
play it
everything
now.
up and-
That's all. Enjoy.
As you, all right, and then
Aloha.
Don't you wanna know? Don't you wanna know about love? Wanna know?